evening, everyone. My name is Allison. I'm the manager for the Tribune. Just so you know, we are videotaping this evening. We wish there was a better turnout. Obviously, I was expecting 200. We have 200 seats here. But we are going to video it and go from there. Thank you, everyone, for attending our nonpartisan candidate forum this evening, and in particular the other HOAs who were here tonight, including representation from the Shores of Waterstone, Wynwood Haven Estates, and Hidden Cove. We'd like to remind everyone that the last day to register to vote is April 9th, and we're excited to introduce you to our representatives here with the League of Women Voters who can register you today. Her name is Gail Rutledge. She's with the Louisville League.
If you want to take some home with you, you can.
The Elm ISD Board of Trustees consists of 7 members elected to serve without compensation for overlapping terms of 3 years each. Elections are conducted in May. While candidates run for specific places, they do not represent specific geographical areas. Rather, each represents our Elm ISD at large. On May 9, 2015, place 4 and 5 will be on the ballot, and our moderator will be introducing the candidates in a moment. Early voting starts on Monday, April 27th through Saturday, May 2nd. There is no early voting on Sunday, May 3rd, but continues on Monday, May 4th and Tuesday, May 5th. Residents may cast their ballot at any of the early voting locations in Denton County, which are listed on the flyer you received on your chair this evening. On election day, May 9th, voting will occur from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. The location for precinct 2027, which should encompass the majority of those in attendance today, to cast ballots on May 9th is at Lakeview Middle School at 4300 Keys Drive in the Collins. I'd now like to introduce you to the moderator for tonight's nonpartisan forum, Ms. Jamie Spence. Jamie is the founder of Next Door Neighborhood Events, an organization that specializes in custom events for community HOAs and developers. Jamie cut her teeth in the events industry by working her way through college at some of Texas' most prestigious resorts and country clubs. The Four Seasons Resort and Conference Center in Las Colinas, Barton Creek Resort and Conference Center in Austin, and Bentwater Country Club on Lake Conroe. After graduating with a Bachelor of Arts in English, Jamie's event experience led to a position in corporate event planning with Marriott Management Services at ExxonMobil Corporation. Her career has also included pharmaceutical event planning and residential and community event planning for a local real estate developer. Jamie currently resides in Prosper with her husband and daughter and understands the importance of the role of a Board of Trustees plays in the success of a school district and their ability to provide the optimal education for each student. Please welcome Jamie Spence.
Welcome everyone, and welcome to our candidates running for the Little Elm ISD Board of Trustees. The purpose of this forum is to get to know our candidates a little bit better and to find out what they would like to accomplish if they are elected to the board. I'd like to first introduce you to each of the candidates. Running unopposed for place 4 is LEISD Board President and incumbent DeLeon English. Running for place 5 is Libby Daftari, David Montemayor, and Jason Olson. To start off the forum, I will be asking each of our candidates to approach this podium and share their platform. Each candidate will have 5 minutes to speak. We have timekeepers, and we will not be shy about letting you know if you run over. If you see a yellow card, it means you're getting close to your time limit. If you see the red card, this means you've reached your maximum time limit. First up, running unopposed for re-election for place 4, LEISD Board President, Mr. DeLeon English.
I would like to thank the tribute and our moderator this evening. We want to Thank you for hosting us here at the Freshman STEM Academy in a tribute to allow us the opportunity to speak about some of the platforms. An important aspect of being on the board is the decision making that you have involved in being on the board and opportunities you have to help make a difference in this community. Last year, my platform stood on making a difference, particularly in the realm of leadership and identifying areas where we can improve inside of our district. Those important aspects allow us this year to really move forward in what we want to do in helping our students achieve. More importantly, about the leadership that was involved in being on the board, and also the opportunities that we need to prioritize to make sure that students are achieving to the expectations of the community. Being the board president was, to say the least, and honestly, a learning experience. It was trying, and it was interesting. But through that trying and interesting, we found a lot of important aspects about being on the board. And that is the ability to work together, the ability to understand the difficulties that are associated with being on the board, and the difficulties associated with understanding how to help the district move forward. Last year's objectives was really identification of concerns that we had in the district, and there were a few. Those concerns were ranging from the academic performance of the students inside of the district. How do we help those? Another aspect was the financial areas of the district. How do we help the financials of the district? We had capacity problems. We had to understand what those capacity problems were, how to address those capacity problems. And then building relationship with the community was extremely important. Throughout the year, my platform stood on building a better relationship with the community. One of the programs that we started was known as Key Communicators. This was an opportunity for us as a district to reach out to the communities and then get an opportunity to speak and inform them about the story and narrative as we have in the district. Another important aspect of being on the district board this year was a strategic plan. LEISD had not had a strategic plan in place, and this was the first opportunity for us to actually create a strategic plan with a mission and goal that represented what was going on inside of our community. It allowed us an opportunity to get the community around us and build a relationship, as well as come up with ideas and suggestions and solutions to help us move forward and prioritize our solutions. Another important aspect is our facility use plan. That was around really having an opportunity to really understand where we put our facilities and what is important to our facilities. This year's platform stands on some of those same principles. Those principles are making sure that we have a community, as well as engagement, as well as a working environment that is cohesive and allows our teachers and administrators to build upon the successes of last year. We'll continue to focus on some of the financial resources. More importantly, we'll continue to focus on the facilities that we currently have in place and the use there. Another important aspect is making sure the strategic plan aligns with the community's wishes and goals are, to make sure that students are being taught what they need to be taught, and the curriculum instruction is as strong as possible. As we continue to build on these platforms throughout the coming years, we should see things really change, the opportunity to really do some different things and move forward. So I want to say thank you for the support. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Our next three candidates are running for place 5. We'll hear from Ms. Libby Daftari first.
Thank you for hosting this tonight to the tribute Joey. Thank you everyone for being here. As a mom to my 2-year-old son, I was very concerned about the little Elm ISD school district that he is going to be attending in a couple of years. I decided to do something about it and to run for the school board. As a school board, we need to be fiscally responsible. We need to support and develop the needs of the whole child, and also support the LEISD strategic planning. I've always had a passion of being involved in the community, whether it was junior league, Girls on the Run, or volunteering at our local animal shelter. I've always wanted to make a positive difference. Prior to moving to Little Elm, I spent the last 10 years working as a manager at Quest Diagnostics in the Health and Wellness Division. There I received numerous awards in our product development, in our team building, and even the prestigious Leadership Award. I was also one of the lead Six Sigma Green Belts, and I was one of the quickest to finish my projects, and I was working towards the black belt when I left Quest Diagnostics to be a stay-at-home mom with my son. Education is extremely important to me. I graduated from Franklin College with a biology degree, and then I also obtained an MBA from Baker University. This helped me grow into the business field at Quest Diagnostics. After moving to Little Elm, I was staying at home with my son, but that didn't stop me from opening up my own online business and having a successful online baby boutique and becoming an entrepreneur. So basically, that's a little bit about me. Where do we go from here for the school district? The first thing is we have to be fiscally responsible. We need to consider the economy and efficiency in our school district and maximizing our resources, whether that be in the instruction programs or their facilities, and we need to make sure that none of these programs are compromised. Student enrollment growth will continue to be a challenge for Little Elm ISD in the upcoming years. Recent reports show that there's a growth here in the Tribute and also Oak Point and Hackberry. As a trustee, I will be committed to keep the best interest in the children and help make the tough financial decisions that will be needed. Also, I want to support and develop the whole needs of the whole child. Teaching and learning should be in the center of the children. Every effort must be made to ensure that all students are supported and engaged to their full learning potential. Maintaining the depth of extracurricular and curricular activities should be a priority. Each child in each school and each community deserves to have a healthy, safe, engaged support and be challenged in their environment. That's what the whole child approach learning is. I also want to support Dr. Strike in the strategic plan. Dr. Strike has developed Destination 2020, and it will help lead Little Elm ISD for the next 5 years. I will support Dr. Strike and the district strategic plan that will guide Little Elm. I am committed to obtaining excellence in education. I will make balanced and informed decisions that are focused on what is best for all the students. I will dedicate myself to working hard and contributing productively as a member of the Little Elm ISD board.
Next, we'll hear from Mr. David Montemayor.
Good evening, and thank you for organizing this event tonight. For everyone to get to meet us and for us to tell you a little bit about ourselves. I want to take this introductory time just to let you know a little bit about me and my family's journey on how we ended up within the Little Elm Independent School District and some of the blowback, that we call it, that we got from some of our friends and family on why we on choosing the district, but on the good things that we saw within it. Prior to moving to Little Elm ISD, we were within the Plano ISD, living in Murphy, Texas. We wanted to find some place that we purposely sought out a school district that was a bit smaller, where we could have a bit more involvement and have more voice within the district. Plano was so big, and there was a very big disconnect between East Plano, where we were, and West Plano, where the higher quality and the better programs seemed to be going on. So in seeking out that school district, we came across Little Elm Independent School District, and the first thing that caught our attention was the dual language programs. I am a Mexican American, first generation born in the U.S. Keeping Spanish and our Hispanic culture with our family is very important to me. So that program in particular is what really sparked my interest in even looking into the Little Elm Independent School District. During that process, we also came to find out that here within the Tribute, a new school was going to be built, and that it was going to be on a STEM format. So we thought, hey, our plan A is the dual language program, plan B is STEM. What else can you really ask for? So we started talking to friends and family. Hey, what do you know about Little Elm ISD? What do you know about the Colony, etc.? And they said, well, there's some great places out there, but why don't you pick the Frisco for schools, or why not go to Allen for schools? Little Elm isn't very good. And it just didn't really connect with what we were seeing and what we were finding out about the school district. The initiatives that they were taking to move forward. So we really weighed all that and decided to really jump in, get involved in the school district, and make sure that we did whatever was possible for us to really bring the status of the school district up to where people wouldn't question the fact that this was a good district to be in. And figure the best way to do it is to get into the district, into the system, and make changes from within. My platform in particular is just going to be on 3 precepts. First being that there's a stability within the school district. There have been some great efforts that have been kind of re-established this last year. The election last year did shake things up quite a bit, and I do think that it kind of stalled some initiatives that were previously taking place. And I do think that now, a year later, the school district is in a position to where it can reestablish those initiatives, really gives us strength behind them. And I kind of think that maybe adding a new voice to the school board would actually help, bridge the gap and the divide that's currently there, and have everybody come to the table, work together, and move forward. I also want to keep diversity first and foremost within the school district. Of course, there's ethnic diversity, but also diversity within views, viewpoints, and ways of doing things. My background is in corporate America. I'm an auditor by training, so I'm very much the mindset of I have an open mind, just convince me. I try not to come into a situation with an idea that can be changed. I want to listen to all voices and really understand everything, make a good informed decision, and move forward from there. And lastly, I also want to just make the best use of our capital resources. In over a year that I've been going to the school board meetings, it's only been within the last 2 months that I've really heard a lot of discussion about what are the current capital resources that are in place, whether it be buildings, land, etc., and how can we best utilize those. There's a lot of needs to go around. There's a lot of restrictions, a lot of financial restrictions to go around, but I think we can make some better decisions with what's there. And that's what I strive to do to be on the board, and that's what I try to, and that's why I hope that everybody votes for me. Thank you very much.
Lastly, we'll welcome Mr. Jason Olson.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for coming. I'm going to kind of take the same approach, David, to tell you a little bit about myself. Lived in Little Elm now for almost 11 years. Have my wife, been married for 17. I have 2 children. One's at the University of North Texas right now, and I have a second that actually is an 8th grader here at Prestwick STEM Academy. So the reason why we chose Little Elm was because me and my wife were looking at a place where we could be involved. We both grew up in small to medium-sized environments. We liked the environments we lived. We were living in Dallas at the time. Our daughter was going to a point where we were getting a little scared of some of the schools. So we decided to look around. We looked at McKinney, we looked at Frisco, the building areas at the time. And then somebody mentioned to us, well, hey, have you looked at Little Elm? And we got here and it just was awesome. It was just a perfect atmosphere of what we wanted to be at. I'm very community oriented and I want to give back to the community. Right now, currently I'm the Little Elm Economic Development Corporation president. I'm actually also my Stardust Ranch HOA president. In the past for Little Elm, I've also served on the Little Elm Board of Adjustments. Also served as a Little Elm High School Athletic Booster Club president for 6 years. 3 years, I might add, after my daughter graduated. So stuck around because that was very important to me, and we were in a great position where we were able to offer scholarships to our high school seniors. I've also been on the Little Elm Planning and Zoning Committee. Currently right now, I'm also, at the request of Ms. Gibson, on the CTE Advisory Council for the Little Elm High School. And I've also been involved in the Destination 2020 meeting, setting the strategic initiatives for the district going forward for the next 5 years plus. Similar to David and Libby, what I'm trying to do, what my main focus is my biggest push right now is facilities. We are at a point right now where from our 10th grade students down, we have almost 500 kids plus in every single grade. My daughter, when she graduated, had 333. So over the course of the last 4 to 5 years, we've grown 33% in our population of our average grades. High school cannot handle 2,000 students. 1,800 right now is pushing it. Also from an middle school perspective, Lakeside is at its seams. There's not much more left. And coming over to the STEM, that's great. Like I said, my son came here. We had the opportunity for 1 year, and I thought it was an excellent opportunity. This is a fantastic facility. Flagship pretty much of the school district in my opinion right now. We need to get more facilities, newer facilities, to be able to provide for our students. with that comes a balanced curriculum. We need to make sure that no child is leaving Little Elm Independent School District without being college ready. Regardless, we know that some kids are just not going to want to go down that path. They're going to be CTE. They're going to want to go maybe career, technical. But the fact is we don't know when that junior or senior, the light bulb is going to go off in their head and all of a sudden say, instead of being a mechanic, I want to own the mechanic shop. I need to go to college and get my business degree. Or any situation like that. We need to make sure we're preparing a balanced curriculum and pushing our kids to be college ready and have them. If we're not serving the higher education platform by doing that. Of course, as both Libby and David have said, fiscally responsible. We need to make sure, the board and the past boards have put us in a great situation right now. We are a lot better off than a lot of other school districts. We have a good balance right now. But the fact is, we need to make sure that we have a higher overall percentage of budget going into the classrooms. We need to make every effort possible to make sure that, we as a community are boosting the dollars per student ratio as much as possible. With that, we also need to actively work with the town. And that's been a great relationship. I think it's expanded over the last year. It's gotten much better than what I've seen it over the past 5 to 6 years. But there is a symbiotic relationship there. The town does well, brings in more tax dollars. That means more money for the school district, more ability for us to fund programs, more ability for fund facilities. If we have a better school district, more people are going to want to move here. More businesses are going to want to move here. There's very much a relationship with the town, the school district, and everyone involved. And we need to make sure we're working together and acting together to build Little Elm to be an awesome place. And we're down that road right now. We've got some great businesses coming in between Hula Hut, the wakeboarding park, Whole Caterpillar. We've got that revenue base growing to help provide for our school districts. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. We're talking storm.
Thank you, candidates. For the next portion of the agenda, we have several questions for each of you. These questions are specifically for the place 5 candidates, as Mr. English is running unopposed. I will ask the question, and then each of the place 5 candidates will have 2 minutes to respond. There's no need to come to the podium. We'll just chat at the chairs. First round. For the first question, we'll start with Ms. Libby Daftari. How can the school board be more accountable to the public on student achievement, school performance, and progress over time?
The first thing we need to do is to hold the superintendent responsible for the strategic plan that we're going to set in place. So the strategic plan is going to need to set metrics and core values and specific goals. So we're going to need to make sure we know what those metrics are so we can measure the students' performances, we can measure teachers' performances, and that way we will know exactly something that is measurable and that is obtainable. Right now, there are no metrics or goals in place in our school district, so there's really no way we can hold anyone accountable right now. So by supporting the superintendent and Destination 2020, we're going to be able to hold him accountable and our entire school district accountable.
Thank you. Mr. Montemayor?
I think really as a school district, the way we represent the residents within the district. And it is our job to ask the questions of the administration, the superintendent, everybody that has to do with the informing the school district and the public of the progress of the kids. A few months ago, I did attend a forum or a meeting here at the Tribute Golf Course where the administration said they were working on a series of it's a series of metrics we would put out and communicate to the public on how they were doing based on state metrics and based on comparisons within comparable school districts around us. These dashboards were supposed to be available and put out to the public and be in a way that really informed everybody on the progress that was being made. As of today, I went on a website and there isn't a section where there are metrics available and some dashboards, but they don't really add any color to what they're really explaining or how any progress has been made. So I think as a board member, asking the questions of where are those dashboards that are being worked on, and how can those be more effectively communicated to the public would be sort of one. And then again, just being really a resource to the school district or to the administration on if they need support, how can we go out to the public or out to the business community to provide them what they need, and then vice versa, asking the questions of the administration that our residents want to know and asking in a way that they actually need to provide answers.
Thank you. And now Mr. Olson.
I'm good. I probably have a loud enough voice. I can do without it. But very similar to Libby and David, we need to be able, with the strategic destination 2020 plan, be able to set metric-driven goals. My job, I'm in sales. I know exactly what my goals are. I know how I'm measured. That type of corporate environment needs to be brought into the strategic plan so that basically we can outline, and as Libby said very eloquently, make sure we can hold Dr. Strike available and his staff to what we set, because it's our job as the board to basically give the objectives, set the objectives for the staff, and the staff to execute on those. So how do we know if they're executing if we don't set metrics to guide them? So that's very important. You know, in my opinion, we need to make sure that they're measurable.
Thank you. Okay, question 2. There's been a lot of discussion about students transitioning from the STEM Academy environment, which is very open and collaborative, to the high school environment, which is a more traditional classroom setting. As a board member, what are some solutions you would propose to make this transition more seamless for STEM Academy students? And we'll start with Mr. Montemayor this time.
I think there is a lot to be said with right now. There is a disconnect between the openness and newness of this building as compared to the environment of the high school. However, I would argue that really the premise of a STEM education and the benefit of STEM education comes from the teachers, comes of the subject matter, comes of the structure in which it's taught, studied, and implemented. On a long-term level, I would love to see any redesign of a high school or any new high school that gets built to be built with that in mind, but we need to look on a short-term basis as well. So we really just need to push a lot of the training that is happening, that is taking place here at the STEM, and incorporate that into the high school classroom. And it's also encouraging our students to be innovative and creative into how can they implement those processes and procedures into any environment. In the real world, you're not going to always have a perfect setting to do a good job or an appropriate job. As an auditor, I've worked in a corner boardroom with catered lunch and drinks brought to us. Makes it a very easy working environment, easy to get the job done. And then the very next week, I'll be in some room closet in the middle of some warehouse in the middle of August. And you're still expected to put out your product, you're still expected to do your job, and you're expected to do it efficiently. So I think in order to really teach our kids to be in the real world, we also have to make them a little bit accountable as well to be able to implement what they've been taught here into the settings of the Little Elm High School. And then hopefully in the long term, the environmental conditions will be better for them as well.
Thank you. Mr. Olson?
That's perfectly said. As an 8th grade parent right now, I have that same concern, but then I also look at my child and go, real life, you have to adapt, you have to overcome, you have to be resilient. Kids are very adaptive and they're very resilient to change. They can adapt to their outcomes, but as David said, it's on our teachers. Our teachers have to be the one. This is a great environment here, but it comes down to our teachers and their training to be able to help assist if children are having a problem transitioning. I have full faith in Dr. Strike and his staff that if there's anything we can do, they'll make sure we get it done to help the kids transition. That also falls over back into what I was talking about, facilities. When we're building these new facilities, I wish the predecessors, when they were building STEM, would have thought maybe a little bit bigger picture with building this school and the environment and what we have currently available and what we're looking to plan to do in the future. That could have possibly helped in the transition of some of these students. But once again, real life, you got to adapt, you got to overcome, you got to make adjustments. That's all part of being parent involved. You got to be with your kids, you got to help them, teach them, give them some good moments to, to fall back so when they're growing up and they're teaching their kids, they can look back and say, hey, this is how I was taught.
Thank you. Ms. Daftari?
So transitioning from any school, whether it be elementary to middle school to high school, is hard. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're going from STEM to high school or Lakeview to the Little Elm High School. So One way we can take a look at this is the curriculum and talking with holding Dr. Strike accountable again on making sure that the curriculum is going to be set up to help these students transition, whether it be from one middle school or even Crestwick to the high school. We need to also make sure that the high school is also preparing those students not only for the real world, but also getting them ready to college if it is going to be there. So any transition is going to be hard for the students, but we can make it easier for them by making sure that the teachers are helping prepare the students for the transition, whether it be from elementary school to middle school or middle school to high school.
Thank you. Question 3. What do you see as LEISD's main educational strengths and weaknesses? We'll start with Mr. Olson.
From my perspective, I really like the changes that the board has made recently with Dr. Strike and him bringing on his new staff. I think that is actually a great strength for us. I've had a couple conversations and had the pleasure of being in some meetings with him, and just to be able to talk with him and listen to him, you can see his enthusiasm and his passion for every child in our school, and he wants to make sure we're doing the best within our capabilities. So I think that is a great benefit. I have not actually had a chance to meet some of the new staff brought in, but I hear great things about each one of them. I think that is a tremendous, strength for us to be able to start from the top and personify that all the way down to our teachers and all of our staff at our schools. One of the weaknesses, and it goes back to one of my points, and it's not that we don't have great facilities. We have a great facility here. We have a great athletic complex. But overall, once again, we don't have all the facilities we need to be able to teach and offer the whole curriculum as some of the other school districts around us. I think that is our biggest weakness right now. And I think even though we're setting a 5-year plan, it really needs to be a shorter 2 to 3 year goal. How can we help the schools as quickly as possible be physically responsible for all of our residents?
Thank you. Ms. Daftari.
So I'll start with the strengths first. One of the greatest strengths that I see with our school district is bringing the new leadership and some of the new board. We have made some great progress within the last year, but it's going to take at least another couple years for us to see that final progression. We also, a great strength is we're sitting at right now, this STEM Academy. Like they said earlier, this is the flagship for Elm ISD. Some of the weaknesses that we have, one is we have no strategic plan. I attended a board meeting, and first thing I did was call my husband and said, can you believe they do not have a mission statement? So I've been in the corporate world for, well, it wasn't for over 10 years. We always had a mission statement. We always had strategic goals and values. So I'm extremely excited to see that we are going to be setting some strategic goals, and we're going to hold everyone accountable. We need to make this a destination school district. So by doing that, we're going to, have to make sure that we want people to come here, and by doing that, we need to have the core values in place, and then we can pass that along to the families that will come here to say we have the core values to make this an excellent school district. We want to be able to, see the signs of the upcoming neighborhoods saying Little Elm ISD, so that way we can make this a destination school district.
Thank you. Mr. Montemayor.
I think this Little Elm Independent School District, like I said, I think has a lot of strengths, which is why I chose to come here. I do think the innovative thought that started years back in implementing programs like the dual language program and the initiatives that led to the creation of the STEM Academy here are the big strengths that had already been put in place. The big weakness that I see is the extent to which the shakeup happened a year ago. I think that did put a pause to a lot of those initiatives. I think it did derail derail some of those. I've even heard some people trying to roll back some of those initiatives. And I do think in order for Little Elm Independent School District to be a destination district, programs like that and others that have yet to be designed or thought of really need to be implemented and put at the forefront. From that shakeup, though, did come the hiring of Dr. Strike. The couple months that I've been able to interact with him and see him at the board meetings and talk to him on a one-on-one basis or one-on-one level, I mean, he is very excited about being here. He's got a great background. He's got some great ideas. He's got a lot of great initiatives that he wants to put into place. And on the board, I want to be able to hold him accountable to that, but I also want to help him, and I also want to stay out of his way as well. Just be able to let those great things happen and those new innovations to come back into play.
Thank you. For the final portion of the candidate forum, we'd like to open it up to the audience for questions. If you have a question, we ask that you please go to the microphone in the center area, state your name and to whom you are addressing the question. And again, we'll ask the candidates to restrict their answers to 2 minutes.
Are the questions directed at individuals or the group?
Either.
Mr. Olson, one of your points related to maybe some differences of opinion or difference of strategic plan that you would have done if in the position to build the STEM Academy that you brought up. I'd like you to expand more upon that as to how you would move forward with future buildings and even include how it might impact the STEM Academy as it exists today.
What I meant by that is the openness and the open learning environment here. Because my son, I mean, he loves it, being able to not necessarily confined to a classroom. Teachers can move around, have that ability to, hey, let's go outside, it's a beautiful day. You know, it's a great learning environment. From that, transitioning to the high school, you know, it's going back to the traditional classrooms. With that, what I'm looking at is not only for this school, but all the other schools, how could we have set it up where maybe we could have modified the other schools to be a more open learning environment if that's the path board and staff wanted to continue down. For myself, looking at going forward, I'd really like to see how we can open up, if this is the environment that the board and staff feel that we want to go down, this STEM Academy, open atmosphere, open learning environment, I'd like to see how we can do that from a facilities perspective at every school, not just here. Because once again, we have to look at the overall school district. How can we best serve everyone? I wouldn't take anything away from this school. I think the learning environment is perfect here. Now, something I may suggest, I'm looking at, something I'm a very strong proponent about, is possibly opening up, we need a second middle school. How does that affect the STEM Academy? How does that affect our students overall? From my perspective, that's maybe the second element or the second middle school is 6, 7, 8, and we offer both STEM, fine arts, and public services at both middle schools. And then Prestwick becomes K through 5. So thought, I don't know, I'd like to hear from the board, Dr. Strike and others, how they feel. I think that would be a great opportunity because what I fear the most for the Prestwick STEM Academy is the growth. As quickly as this is growing, and Libby pointed out earlier, you know, 65% of the new homes in Little Elm over the past couple of years have come out of Hackberry and Prestwick. It's not going to stop. As long as the economy continues the way it's going, we're going to need more room here at Prestwick. We're going to be busting out the seams before we know it. One way to alleviate that, possibly looking at taking the 6th through 8th graders and doing another middle school because Lakeside is jam-packed. We've got 1,400 plus middle school students. That is too much for Lakeside. We need to be able to possibly divide that up and take it into 2 middle schools. Does that answer your question?
That answers that question. I'll defer to someone else if there's no others. I'll continue. All right, on that topic of current attendance, if I look at our 10-year forecast that was presented to the school board last month,
Yes.
10-year forecast for Prestwick gets us to for the attendance here, gets us to 820 in the fall of next year, fall of 2016.
Yes.
Current capacity is around 800, according to Mr. English. There's no growth projected for the STEM beyond the 820, 840 for the following 9 years. I don't understand that. It doesn't mix with what we know the growth in this region or the STEM region is. And do you have any, does anyone from the, do you have any insight as to how that could possibly be? And if we can ask Mr. English, you know, I'd be happy for him to answer the question. Because based upon my information, the information presented to the school board, 820 is where we're at according to the school district's projections for the next 10 years.
Go ahead, I'll go after you. I got an idea, but I'll listen to you first.
Okay. So you're talking about the end of 10 years, the 820, at the end of 10 years or 820 next year? Is what is your
820 is what was presented to you in the school board meeting last month.
Okay,
for
so,
the fall of next year.
I think I get your question. So the question really is around the attendance of the capacity of the school from this location versus the attendance capacity in Little Elm. So with the school right now, Prestwick Academy has about 600 some students more in the academy right now. The school was designed, from what is I understand, maybe a little bit more than 800 is the design of the school. That splits between K through 8. So there's a split there between K through 8. A vast majority of the kids that actually go to Prestwick Academy comes from Little Elm and Oak Point and Hackberry. They do not come from this location.
Correct.
So about 10 to 12% actually comes from the HOA's location. HOA has first privy to the school system. Little Elm, Hackberry, Oak Point does not have first privy to the schools. So what happens is when the schools begin to grow out in an area of the HOA begins to grow, then what happens is you have to push out kids from the Little Elm area, the Oak Point area, the Hackberry area, as the school continues to grow. So to answer your question is, you can actually have 820 kids from HOA go to this school, right? Because that's really what happens. If you have the school growth, you have community growth, what will happen is you have 820 kids that come from this area that's within the zone that is scheduled for here and go to the school. So to answer your question, that's really what happens. That means, like Mr. Olson was saying, is what happens to all the kids that are in the middle school, the elementary schools, and the high schools in the area. So in other words, there's no impact to the community of the kids here because it's simply one thing or another. The agreement is that kids from this area get to go to school first dibs. That's just the way it is. To honor that agreement, we have to. That is a responsibility of the community and the board to honor that agreement. That's what was set in place. And that's what will happen as we see going forward. Now, to Mr. Olson's standpoint, the question is what happens to those other kids? The kids are 6th, 7th, 8th grade. What do we do with those kids? Like you say, the school's busting at the seams. We have a problem with the middle school. We have a problem at the high school. There was not money put forward in the high school and middle school to think about what do we do when we have more kids coming into the school district. One of the things we're doing about that is a facility use plan. The whole point of the facility use plan is to make a determination of what do we do with the schools, how do we plan it, what resources we have, and what money will we use to do those things. And that's some of the things that we're coming up with. We hope to have within mid-year. We're working with some pretty important people to come up with an idea of how that actually works.
I think to your point, it's similar to what, I'll go, David.
Let Jason continue, and then I'd like to hear from the other candidates as well on that topic.
My view is very much the same as DeLeon, so I think the current board. This Prestwick is for the tribute kids first. They get first. As you continue to grow, more homes are sold, more people are coming to this point, there's going to be less and less space available for Oak Point, Hackberry, and Little Elm residents to come down here and go to Prestwick. So they're going to go back up. Right now, 3 of the schools in the next 3 years are going to be over capacity. Oak Point, Hackberry, and I'm sorry, there's a third. I forgot off the top of my head. But 3 of the schools are projected to be over capacity in the next 3 years. In the next 5 years, we're expecting over 1,000 new kids to come into Little Elm Independent School District. It's an increase of over 250 kids per year we're expecting to grow. Already on the fact that at the high school, in the next 2 years, we're going to have 2,000 plus kids at the high school and probably somewhere in the neighborhood of about 1,600 at the middle school. That is huge. And I think, to answer your point, that's where my perspective, looking from having a child here and looking at the community, that's what I see, is that we'll still be able to move some kids here, but as the tribute continues to grow, you can't go past 820 because that's capacity because of the agreement we have with the tribute and being able to provide the land and the facilities.
I mean, definitely, I think the shift is going to happen to where students that are currently coming down from further up north down into our district are going to be shifted back up as the capacity, as the residents within the HOA take up the space here. However, I would also say that was put on the school or on the school district in not planning appropriately. The financial support that came from the HOA made the school possible. It would not have been built otherwise, which means that the strain the growth that is here would have put strain on those schools further up north. And in that year, instead of actually making a plan as to how they were going to shift that into further schools and what was going to happen 4 or 5 years down the line, they closed the school. So in a new school was open, one was closed, there was net zero. And then in a couple years before that, there was another school that was closed. So over the last 8 years, where there was a growth of 1,000 students, there's one less school within the school district. That's poor planning, and to just now be talking about what's the next step is a little late. Again, I think that has been postponed by what's happened in the last year or two, and it's time to move forward.
At the previous school board meeting that you're discussing we were given a very good presentation of the expected growth within the Little Elm ISD school district. I think it's going to really be important as part of the strategic plan is that we have a facilities plan of, what will be needed for the individual schools. And, Crestwood is, zoned for the tribute. So exactly as they have said, if, students from, the Little Elm area, Point area, if they, if this gets full with the tribute, then we will need to have them, go to other schools.
If you don't mind adding my answer to that, I think one of the aspects of being on the board is the disposition of the board. In other words, how it looks at what it does with its community and how it looks at how it engages the resources in the district. The disposition of the board now is really about proactive planning, right? Looking at the things that are important to us and prioritizing those things as we come into the coming years. One of the things that happens in the district, particularly if you have, like you were saying, a shakeup in the district where things kind of happen, it is very difficult for the district to make really definitive goals and definitive actions without having a leader in place to make those definitive actions, because we as the board are not the experts on what are some of the minutiae that goes into the district itself. That is the responsibility of the superintendent to really do that expertise so we can understand, hey, these are the things we can do, either from a curriculum instruction standpoint, a facility standpoint, whether it be culture within the school, etc. And so now what happens is you have the disposition, and you said it very much so. There wasn't a disposition of thinking about what happens when we put a facility anywhere within the district. What happens when we actually add facilities, etc., in different locations? What is the impact of the community? How does that look 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years down the road? What are we going to be doing? Right now, we are in a position where we have some opportunities and some options available to us, but also financially is a question. Our financial state is fund. We are financially able to run our district and schools just like we do. But the question is funding. How do we go about funding sources to be able to do some other things? And there are some really good questions around how to do that in place.
My question is based on what I'm hearing tonight is we're going to get capacity in the next 2 years everywhere. So what is the plan? I mean, why are we not building a school now? What is that plan? Because whether or not we build out here or we have people coming from all over the district here, it's not just the school that's impacted, it's everywhere. I've got a kid in the high school who tells me all the time how crowded it is. So what is our plan? We can't be just sitting here and talking about it. What is our active plan to help with this overcrowding?
To whom are you addressing the question?
Anyone who'd like to address that. But I guess more DeLeon, since he happens to know what the financial issue and how we can get the funding to get that done.
So real quickly, let's talk about the funding for schools, right? School district funds come from a couple different sources. One is, of course, the state funding that we have, which is based on our water, and then another funding source comes from our property taxes, which we have in the district. Those are two main funding sources that we have. The question is, why don't we build now? The question is if we were to build now, the question is, where do we get 60, 70, or $80 million to do that?
Is there any sort of tax bonds or anything that
So the question is tax bond. Well, we took a bond out in 2001. The bond was over $109, $10 million. So whatever it was, $100-something million. All that bond money was mostly used for the building of the schools that we currently have now. So we got Oak Point, we got the high school, we got the stadium, we have different things that have come out because of that bond. Due to that bond also, it has pushed us to a very critical level as far as the funding is concerned. Right now, the state has decided that they want to put restrictions on what the possibilities for bonds are. Right now, we're at $1.54% per 10,000 something dollar in the school. To go out and say we're going to put another $140, $150 million into being able to go and either create a brand new school or high school big enough to handle 2,000 or 3,000 students, which is at $60, $70 million, and then say we need to put another $10 to $20 million in front of funding for the middle school and any other school that we have. It is a challenge. It is a big challenge, and we are not, in our regards, we didn't think about some of the important aspects that was available to Frisco. And Frisco did one important thing that we didn't do, and that is in their TERS district, where they receive a great deal of their tax funding and money, they put one really important thing in there, and they put that big old Stonebriar Mall and all of the businesses in the area, which means the funding for all their schools goes directly to them and not so much to the city. We don't have that. We don't have that available to us. So there is talk of what do we do from a funding standpoint, but I'll hold that off until we actually have a solidified plan that comes in from our facility use plan. So,
From that point, I think that's what Destination 2020 is doing. We're setting the plan, giving you measurable action items. I agree. I know it's been a discussion at the point in past boards. You know, they always review it every year. What can we do? What do we need? How can we provide the funding for it? It's a large expense. I mean, $60, $70 million is not just a drop in the bucket. It's a lot of money, but I think from this Destination 2020, we're going to have a very clear action items on how we're going to do it. Like I've said, I have some of my own ideas of what I would like to see, what I think would be beneficial to the school district. I'm sure everyone else does too. I think you'll see some action soon. At least that's my hope.
Jason, when do you expect actionable items to come from that? Is that a
I think actionable
summer, or is that a fall, or is that a...
I would like to see something this summer. I think Destination 2020 meetings are wrapping up. I think they're being reviewed currently right now. I would like to see some actionable items start this summer.
So
Me, personally. I don't know the...
Well, you're participating in it, that's why I was
Yeah,
asking.
I participated. I've given my feedback. A lot of what I'm telling you now is the same feedback that I gave to Dr. Strike and the staff that were at these events. I would like to see some actionable items start as soon as possible. Once again, I think a 5-year plan is great, but not trying to be knee-jerkish. I really think we need to make sure there's some actionable items that can happen in 2 to 3 years. Really, and how that happens, I don't know. I am not the expert. That's where I'm going to lean on the expertise of Dr. Strike, the CFO, and everyone else from the school district to tell us how can we get these funds. Because once again, that's what we're trying to do. We, as a board, are saying this is what we would like you to do, Dr. Strike. How do we get to this point? You're the expert. You have the staff. Help us get to this. We think this is where we need to be as a school district. And provide us feedback, and then, as David said, get out of his way. Tell him, be able to get there and say, here's what we'd like, and back off. Because I've had that experience where that has happened, and we have a plan, and all of a sudden somebody butts their nose in and changes the plan on us. And that's not what we're supposed to do. That's what, as a board, they should be doing. They should be giving those action items to Dr. Strike and his staff and letting them move forward, because that's the vision of the board and the residents and the information they've received from feedback.
The strategic plan is supposed to be done in July timeframe of this year. The facility use plan is supposed to be all done about the same time. It takes about, any significant plan where we're talking about a district that's large, over 100 million, it takes about 5 to 6 months to really kind of get it together. Dr. Strike, the very first, he actually put a plan in Eagle Mountain, Saginaw, which took about the exact same time as what he takes us. So we should see something come out about that time frame. As far as a goal is concerned, that was one of the goals of the board, to come up with a strategic plan, to come up with a facility use plan, and some of the cultural things that we have in the district.
I do want to chime in. So that's when a plan will be agreed upon, or at least be discussed. From plan to bricks and mortars coming up, I mean, that's going to be years. So, I mean, unfortunately, it's not a fix that's going to come fast. The state does provide does impose restrictions on bonds that can be raised. I do know there is a firm that we seek counsel from. They've helped the school district restructure some of those bonds and refinance some of those bonds over the last couple of years. That has freed up a lot of cash flow. So it does appear that there's not going to be any ability, or not any beneficial ability, to issue any bonds this year. So really, the questions that I think I'll be asking from the get-go is what is the formula for the restrictions that are in place? Is next year realistic in being able to start issuing these bonds? But then we need to see, you can't ask for the money and not have plans in place. You need to have a good plan in place before you ask for the money. If not, you're just paying interest for absolutely no reason. So there's going to be a lot of balancing there. Again, that's something that probably should have already been taking place. Again, if next year is a time frame that we could have gone after bonds, then we should have had this plan in place last year, started talking about locations, talking about design, etc., so we could tap into those funds next year and start building. But right now, that's not going to happen. So there is still going to be a little pain before it gets better.
I think that before, we start, saying this is where we need to build, we need to make sure we have all the facts and all the data and have everything analyzed so that we know this is exactly where facilities, would need to be placed. I mean, we don't want to just say, throw a dart and say, hey, that looks great, and build something. We need to make sure that we analyze data and have all the facts before we would start doing any type of facilities. Otherwise, we're just going to end up 10 years down the line in the exact same situation. If we don't, it's a big problem.
And I'd add like that one point. I think the district is in a good position from a facility standpoint in that we have some land. So that's a big piece of the funding too, is having the land. But also with that, to Libby's point, is that we need to really look at those demographics and the trends, because as we said, Oak Point's one of the schools. We've got some land out on the west side of town. There's 2 spots. We've got 17 acres and another 42 acre site, I believe. The 17 is perfect for a kindergarten. Takes about 15. The 40 could be a kindergarten / middle school if we squeeze it maybe, because the middle school is going to take about 30 acres. But that's one of the overexpanding areas is Oak Point. And as a whole, we need to look at the demographics and be able to say, okay, do we need both these pieces of land? Is it a viable option to sell? I know the district has researched that in the past about selling one of the lots. Once again, to get funds, to start the plan earlier. But that's all part of this process and getting that strategic plan, because we've got some land and that's great, but we got to make sure it's in the right spots and we can build on those land and be able to serve the community as a whole as best as possible and make it good physically for the district.
All right, everyone, we're going to wrap up. Thank you for attending. We hope that the evening has been an enlightening one for you. Just a final reminder of the last day to register to vote is April 9th. And you can do that with the League of Women Voters, the information is on their table. Early voting starts Monday, April 27th, and goes through May 2nd from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. There's no early voting on Sunday, May 3rd. All of this information is also on the flyer we received here tonight. On Election Day, May 9th, voting will occur from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. The location for precinct 2027, which is the majority of those, here today is Lakeview Middle School, and he's driving the colony. Please vote to make your voice heard.